All right, Troy here, Quad Standard Labs, and we've got our FreeZillion 4-inch Cinelifter ducted X8 Cinelope. So pretty interesting, cool build that we built for someone, and we are probably going to be offering some more of them. So I wanted to give a quick introduction into what's going on. Uh, don't mind the 3D printed parts. These are being worked out in carbon and some aluminum pieces to be replaced. For now, they're printed out of some high impact materials to make them durable enough for tuning, testing, and even flying cameras. And nothing should break unless you crash, and that's not going to be a fun story either way. But we are working on the more polished final upgrade kit, if you would, from us for the FreeZillion X8 4-inch. First off, the ducts are, the props are on the motors and are in a standard orientation on the top and a reverse orientation on the bottom, all of them pointing the same way so they push air downward. This design is meant to get those blades as close as possible to provide the most effective and efficient use of two motors in a duct and create less turbulence between the blades. This does make for changing props extremely difficult and time consuming and important to make sure you do correctly. However, it's really not that big of a deal. You really shouldn't be crashing it, and even if you are, these ducts are actually pretty durable and they shouldn't really impact the blades because they've got a decent amount of air gap. So shouldn't be an issue, but if you ever have to change the props, you will basically have to take the motor off to put the prop on. So you have to take all 4 motor screws off, drop the motor out, it slips out the side. You then take the prop off, put a new prop on properly and the right prop, put it back in here. When you get the motor mount and the upper carbon plate kind of seated and it's not quite tight all around, just kind of seated, you want to make sure that it's as centered as possible in the little gaps here. So you can see they're as close as we can eyeball wise to make sure it's centered. So once you put the motor back on, it's ready to go. You can't really get the bottom one out with just one motor off. You kind of can if you have a really short ratcheting prop driver, but even then it's a really tight fit. It almost makes more sense to just pull both motors. So with the brace kit, it has one screw that's longer. Make sure you do not put too long of screws back in by moving these screws to the wrong hole. So make sure you keep in your brace the longer screws. And if you do have to change motor screws for some reason, you're going to have to make sure you check the clearance. It is very vital. We accidentally, not paying attention on one build, jammed some screws straight through that were 3 millimeters way too long. Damaged motors brand new out the box. So don't do that. All right. So that's prop change, the most kind of difficult part of this deal. On this build, we have created our own clean plate for the DAC universal mount. So you can see on our website the universal mount. You can go to our YouTube, find some more videos on it. But this is our universal DAC mount from James Neer, who we work with to get these out and distribute them. So the clean plate, again, right now is 3D printed, but we do have carbon plates on the way. It's a 4-point mount. We are using 3 screw holes that exist in the current top plate. However, we did have to drill a new hole for the front part in order to clear the 2 front screws that allow you to get the plate off, or the whole top plate off, which then allow you to take the plate off and on. So in order to get into the drone or take the top plate off, you would have to first start with these front 2. You're going to kind of shift. You might want to loosen the other ones if they will. They probably won't because they're fully tightened, but you should be able to just get your screwdriver tip right past the gummy and into these front 2 holes. That'll let you get the front 2 screws out. The other screws are all open and easy to get to because of the position, but there was no way to avoid either doing front and back both really close or just saying, hey, let's just do it this way. Once you take all 8 screws off the top plate, the mount and the top plate will come off. Inside will be all your guts, and if you need to get to your receiver to bind it, we do plan on trying to remember to reset your receiver to make sure that you should just be able to auto bind out the box. So out the box, try to auto bind. If you can, great. If you can't, you will have to take the top plate off and get into it. If you're running one that's not running Crossfire, if you have one with DJI from us, you will have to open the top plate in order to get in there and get to the air unit. Now, there is the option, though, of dropping the bottom plate. Now, this is another idea that you could do instead. So you could drop the 8 screws off the bottom. This would allow you to much easier get inside, but you do need to be careful. The stack is attached to this bottom plate as well as the Vista. And then because you'll be pulling the bottom plate, the camera, you want to make sure it kind of comes with you. But besides that, that might be a better option. So first try opening up your bottom plate, see if you can get to it the way you like. If for some reason you don't like getting into it that way, then no worry. Inside, though, there are your flight controller, your ESCs. You also have a BEC. You can see right here, this BEC is actually coming out this side with your XT30. This XT30 connector can be used to then power an external camera or a transmitter or something else. And so that's how you'll get that 12-volt power coming out. So it is 12 volts. You also have a USB extension on the back by your XT90. Your USB extension allows you to access the flight controller and get in there without having to actually get in there and get plugged in. So this is running directly to your flight controller, plug in USB, you can access Betaflight, VL Heli, all those things. Really, I think that's gonna be just about it. Battery gets mounted on the bottom. We do recommend that you play with battery size anywhere from an 1800 to a 3000 milliamp, depending on your payload. We didn't do too extensive testing of payloads yet in batteries, but it's a battery eater. It's at 8 motors, and it's going to eat the batteries just like crazy. So the bigger the battery, the better, but that means the lighter you're going to have to be on your camera payload. Ideally, this thing would be flying something super light, Blackmagic Naked Pocket, or just a BGH1, no battery, something in the like 500 to 800 gram range, all up camera. And if you did that with a light enough battery, I think you could get easily 3.5, maybe 4 minutes. But as you start increasing the battery size and the weight starts coming up, especially with a camera, 1,000 grams to 1,500 grams, you're going to start having to find that balance. So it's really going to be up to you to figuring out what battery size works best with what camera weights or what payload weights. And then as you decrease payload weight, you can increase battery, or you can decrease battery to increase payload weight. And that's kind of a good formula to start with. Besides that, everything else is pretty self-explanatory. It's a drone. DJI, again, you're going to have to get in there and bind them to your goggles. If you have any questions, let us know. Fly safe, fly smart, just fly. Peace.